You don't have time, and you're cold, wet, and tired after working 12 to 14 hours. Oak Island was the start of the trip of a lifetime for Rick Lagina more than 10 years ago. Now, though, it looks like that trip is finally over. Of course, not gladly as well. You would think that the Lagina brothers would have found the answers by now, after 12 seasons and between $30 million spent looking for them. They hit a wall and spent looking for them. They hit a wall instead, though. There is a report that the Oak Island curse will end soon. What is it that is ending Rick Lagina's career? How did things get this bad? How did everything begin? It's an excuse, but it is what it is. It's really hard. We both agree on what we should have done. We should have paid someone to keep the records. Before we can figure out what might have ended Rick Lagina's career, we need to know how it all started. Why did Rick go to Oak Island? Why did he spend so much of his life trying to figure it out? The story of Oak Island didn't begin with Rick, or even in our time. It goes back more than 200 years to 1795, when a Canadian farmer named Daniel McGuinness found something strange on the island. The story goes that McGuinness was pulled to a strange depression in the ground, which some say was a sign of something being buried below. It was said that a crew member who was dying on the famous pirate Captain Kidd admitted to putting a lot of money there. Since then, this story has captivated both treasure seekers and history buffs. There are people who think the story is just a myth, a pirate's last prank, or something made up. But some people are sure that Oak Island is full of unimaginable riches, from pirate gold to religious artifacts. Of course, this kind of puzzle interests people. The Lagina boys were definitely interested in it. It wasn't a surprise that Rick Lagina was interested in Oak Island. In fact, he knows exactly when it started. In 1965, Rick was a young boy living in Kingsford, Michigan. He read an issue of Reader's Digest that talked about the secret of Oak Island. The story talked about the mysterious money pit, the strange things that have been found there over the years, and the idea that there might be treasure buried deep below the ground. This was more than just a cool story for Rick when he was young. It was the start of a passion that would last a lifetime. Rick's hopes of finding treasure were only thoughts at the time. He came from a family that worked hard and was close. Rick was raised in a simple Midwestern home by his father, George, and mother, Anne. He also has two brothers, Marty and Martina. Rick finally got a steady but not very interesting job with the US Postal Service. The dream of Oak Island never really left him, even though the road didn't really feel like an adventure or a treasure hunt. While Rick was carrying mail, his younger brother Marty was doing something that was making him more money. Marty worked hard and became an engineer, a businesswoman, and even the owner of a winery. By the beginning of the 2000s, Marty had enough money to take chances, and Rick saw a chance. Rick talked Marty into investing in Oak Island in 2006. They bought a 50% share in Oak Island Tourism Corporation together. This was a business that owned a lot of the island and made money from its growing tourism. What the Nova Scotia government has is called the Treasure Trove Act. It used to cover the whole state, but now it only does so for Oak Island. This was the moment when everything changed for Rick. He could finally live out his dream of looking for wealth on Oak Island, but Marty wasn't so sure. He thought things through and was skeptical. Marty thought the business was a bad idea because it was risky, but Rick was interested in the story. But Rick quickly won him over. After getting a permit to go treasure hunting, they started finding interesting artifacts and objects that made them think there might be more to the tale than just stories. Marty's worries started to go away. The brothers then started a prize hunt that became famous all over the world. Now the question is, what is it about Oak Island that makes people want to visit? Why did Rick and Marty, along with a huge number of other people, work so hard to figure it out? Well, Oak Island's appeal comes from the things that could happen there. According to legends, it might be hiding valuable items from the Knights Templar, such as the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. Some theories say that it holds the lost jewels of Marie Antoinette or even Shakespeare's original manuscripts, but skeptics say that these claims are not likely to be true. Some people who believe in the island say that its secrets are too complicated and have been kept for too long to be an accident. The so-called Curse of Oak Island adds to the mystery. The story goes that 7 people have to die before the wealth can be found. In the search for the wealth, 6 people have already died. This is true whether you believe in curses or not. This gives the story a scary sense of reality. Rick Lagina saw Oak Island as more than just a place to find wealth. It was like a puzzle to be solved, a story just waiting to be found. People who had dreamed of adventure for a long time thought it was the best place to leave their mark. The History Channel became interested in Rick and Marty's work in 2014, which led to the making of The Curse of Oak Island. The show showed footage of their search, making their private treasure hunt a public event. People were hooked. They watched every week to see what new finds the Lagina brothers would make. Because of the show, the excitement, and the people who want to be a part of it. And for that reason, we're very thankful. There was more to the show than just treasure finding. It showed the journey, the friendships, and the never-ending search for solutions. And while Rick was usually the enthusiastic believer, Marty's cool-headed doubt kept things in check. The way they interacted on screen made for great TV, and the show became a big hit very quickly. The Curse of Oak Island has led to many interesting discoveries over the years. They found a metal cross that was hundreds of years old, bits of human bone that came from the Middle East, and even gold. Fans were interested in these findings because they led to endless guesses about what else might be buried under the island. Fans are interested in the Curse of Oak Island and the Lagina brothers' never-ending search for buried wealth, but Rick Lagina's personal life is still a bit of a mystery. Many things about Rick's life outside of TV are unknown, just like about the prize. Thus, what do we know about the man who is so interested? His secret life. Rick Lagina is very good at keeping his private life secret. He has been in the public eye for over 10 years because of his treasure hunting adventures, but he hasn't talked much about his dating life, hobbies, or daily life. Rick has decided to keep his life quiet, even though a lot of famous people share details about their lives on social media or in interviews these days. A question that a lot of fans ask is Rick married? According to what everyone knows, the answer is no. Rick is thought to be single and not have any kids, but he has never said for sure. This makes him more interesting, whether it's on purpose to keep the attention on the prize hunt or just a reflection of how private he is, ain't has ever said for sure. Some might say that his silence is nice, even more so in a world where sharing too much has become normal. Some people find it annoying and wonder why someone with such an interesting life story wouldn't share more of it with his friends. At the very least, we know that Rick cares deeply about his privacy, and that is something we should honor. Another thing that fans can't help but notice about Rick is how unique he looks. With his dark, thick, wavy hair and stark white beard, he seems like the kind of person who would fit in on a rough journey. Rick looks very interesting. His brown eyes, which are often surrounded by glasses with thin frames, seem to have a quiet intensity that goes well with how driven he is. Rick has kept his slim, healthy body. He is 5 feet 10 inches tall. It's easy to think that all the digging, climbing, and traveling he's done while looking for treasure has kept him in good shape. Rick has a young energy that surprises a lot of people, even though he is older. Not only does his appearance show how serious he is, but so does his attitude. Seems to be someone who is serious about his job, but there is a warmth about him that comes through on the show. There's no doubt that Rick really loves Oak Island, whether he's sharing his latest idea or breaking into a rare smile. Rick's life wasn't very exciting before Oak Island. He made a steady but low pay as a mail carrier for the US Postal Service. His dream of finding treasure stayed a dream for many years. Rick finally got the chance to follow his childhood dream when his brother Marty, who had made a name for himself in business and engineering, agreed to help fund the Oak Island project. When the Curse of Oak Island worked, it totally changed Rick's finances. It is said that Marty is worth between $40 and $60 million. Rick may not be as rich as his brother, but he is thought to be worth $10 million. It shows how determined he was and how he stuck to his dreams even though the odds were against him. Rick now makes most of his money from the show and from tourists who come to Oak Island Tours and Corporation, a business he and Marty own together. The island has become a popular place for fortune hunters and people who like the show, and the money the Lagina brothers have made from trips has been a big help. Some untold truths about Rick's personal life have come to light lately, but not much is known about it. What are these new words being said about him? His hidden facts. The way Rick deals with the Oak Island curse isn't always good or bad. On the one hand, the show has made the treasure hunt possible by bringing in money, materials, and attention from all over the world. But Rick hasn't always done what he agreed to do. His friend Marty and he did not look forward to seeing the show when it began. They were called by the network. There had been work on the island for a few years by the time the cameras were rolling. Rick's dream did not include the show. It was more like an extra that he had to get used to. It's said that Rick doesn't always like where the show is going. Some of the things the show talks about are things he doesn't think are important. Drama is great on TV, full. Because of this, the production team sometimes moves the story toward things that Rick doesn't think are as important. Several times he has said that the hunt should come first. However, this doesn't always happen on screen. People watch a polished and sometimes highly dramatic version of what happened. Rick, on the other hand, cares more about how things are really going on the ground. You may also know that he doesn't like being caught on camera. Is it because he is too busy? No, he has said that he doesn't really watch the show. It's weird for someone like Rick to see themselves on TV because he seems stable and humble. Someone once told him that it's hard to see yourself on TV, and the thought of being a TV star has never interested him. It's not important to him that people know about him or pay attention to him. Rick seems to see the show as an important part of his goal, not as a way to become famous. This lack of connection with the fun parts of the show is also related to Rick's character. The work that is being done is more important to him than how it is presented. He probably doesn't like watching himself on TV and remembering things that may have been trimmed or framed differently than he experienced them. This is probably not how he wants to interact with the treasure hunt. It's almost like Rick splits the reality TV Rick from the treasure hunter he really is, on finding out what's hidden on the island. Then, one of the most interesting things about Rick Lagina is that he thinks Oak Island has secrets. He's not just after the loot. The island itself is what keeps him going. During their search, Rick has told many stories about strange things that have happened over the years. Strange sounds near the swamp, broken equipment in some areas, and the sighting of unidentified figures by team members have all added to the island's mystery. Some people might just think these things are happening by chance, but Rick doesn't rule out the idea that there is more going on the island than meets the eye. Rick takes seriously the story of the island's curse that 7 people must die before the wealth can be found, even though he doesn't talk about it much. Over the years, 6 people have already died. Even though Rick is careful and respectful in his search, he is aware of the weight of that past. Rick thinks that the island's secrets are deeper than what's below the ground. In an interview with My North in 2015, he talked about how he has felt an energy or glow. Rick thinks there's more to Oak Island than meets the eye, but Marty is not like him. Rick believes in superstitions, ghosts, and the power of a good story. People often think of Marty as the more critical and business-minded brother. Rick, on the other hand, is the dreamer and believer. One of the things that has helped them be successful is this balance. Rick can focus on the treasure hunt without having to worry about how to pay for it or how to organize it, thanks to Marty's financial help and practical advice. But Rick's strong desire and unshakable faith have kept the search going even when things went wrong or problems arose. The brothers accept each other's points of view, even though they are different. Even though Marty is better at math and statistics, he trusts Rick's gut when it comes to the island. In the same way, Rick values Marty's ability to give their work structure and tools. They have found a balance between each other that has helped them complete a task that might have seemed impossible on their own. But that doesn't mean the goal will never end. He has faith in the unknown, but that doesn't make him foolish or overly religious. As it turns out, he is very realistic about the prize hunt itself. He is aware that they might not find the wealth, and he is ready for the chance that they will never find it. Still, Rick is most excited about the trip, not just the end result. For him, every object or clue is a piece of the past of the island that needs to be put together. Rick thinks that what they have learned and found along the way is valuable, even if the wealth stays hidden. In an interesting twist, Rick has also said that he knows when to leave. He doesn't keep digging without a plan just because he can. Rick is ready to drop out of the search if it gets stuck and finds no real progress. He said he wouldn't keep going because of his pride or because he was stubborn. He cares about the island, its past, and the work that people have done before him. In the event that he has to hand over the treasure hunting torch to someone else, Rick will know that he gave it his all. Is it really going to happen? Is this show about to end? OQN? What does he mean by stopping his own job? We want to dig up the whole swamp because we don't have a clear goal. That is the issue. That's the main point. We do not have a clear goal. It's clear that Rick loves Oak Island a lot. As a child, he read about the island in Reader's Digest and has been really interested in it ever since. That much commitment is great, but it also has some bad effects. Rick has grown more and more into his belief in the Oak Island legend over the years. Some might even say it's excessive. Because he cares so much about the search, giving up seems almost impossible to him, even though it would make sense. This connection could keep the show going, but it could also kill it. The show has turned into a two-edged sword. At first, the Curse of Oak Island seemed like a great way to get people to join the treasure hunt and share the story with the world. But as the seasons have gone by, the focus seems to have moved from real discoveries to dramatizations and theories that have been said over and over again. A lot of fans are upset that there aren't any solid results yet. There are cliffhangers, delays, and rumors at the end of every season. Even though the first season promised a big reveal, some fans are starting to wonder if the treasure hunt is still the main goal or if keeping the show going for ratings and money has become more important. As the public face of the search, Rick takes most of the blame for this. He talks a lot about how important it is to find out about the island's past and solve its mysteries, but the show keeps going on, making it seem like progress has stopped. Another problem is that Rick doesn't want to or can't step away. He has said more than once that he is ready to stop if the search stops, but his deeds don't seem to back that up. Rick has always been the one pushing to go back to old sites, look into leads that don't seem solid, or work on projects that make more sense emotionally than logically. For instance, his insistence on continuing to work at 10X, a site that had been carefully researched and was thought to be unpromising, made people, even on his own team, look twice. To explain himself, he says that he has a duty to past wealth hunters like Dan Blankenship. Even though this kind of emotional reasoning is admirable, it often gets in the way of treasure hunts and making TV shows. In this case, Marty Lagina balances out Rick's emotional method. Marty is the realistic one who often asks how much their plans will cost and whether they can be done. But it looks like even Marty has trouble telling Rick no. Most of the time, they've been able to get along, but as the seasons go on, it becomes clear that Marty's patience and money are running out. It could be the end of the show, no matter what Rick wants if Marty decides to end it, whether it's because of falling ratings or personal anger. Then there's the matter of how people see things. People have strong opinions about Rick because he is so sure of the prize. This is what makes him a controversial figure. Some of his fans respect his passion, while others think it's stubbornness that's getting close to delusion. The longer the show goes on without any big findings, the more likely it is that Rick will go from being an inspiring character to a sad one. Someone who won't give up on a dream, even if it looks impossible to reach. People don't like this view because Rick often doesn't seem to want to accept certain facts. He is still sure that Oak Island has a lot of secrets, even though there is a lot of proof to the contrary. Skeptics say that exploration over hundreds of years hasn't found anything solid, and that hasn't changed with the help of modern technology. But Rick keeps going because he has faith, not because he has proof. His biggest strength and biggest weakness are both this confidence. Is the end getting close? It's not clear. The show keeps getting picked up by the History Channel, and the Laginas don't plan to stop anytime soon. That being said, as viewers get more annoyed and the search results become less useful, it's only a matter of time before the stream stops moving. The hunt for treasure begins. A lot of people have been interested in the stories of Oak Island over the years. There are stories about pirates, lost treasure, unknown groups, and old towns. This island is linked to all of these stories. Mary Lagina didn't just hear these stories as a child. He was drawn to them. He and his brother Rick set out to find out more about Oak Island's interesting stories. He's about to turn 70, so now is a great time to remember all the fun times and interesting ideas that have happened to him. What was found on Oak Island is now the big question. What did he do to help you find these things? What will happen next in this search? What will happen next in this is going to be a lot harder than anyone thought it would be because Marty told them about Maddie. This isn't the only thing that will surprise you. What they've found so far is just the start. What's next will blow your mind. Like many others, Marty's link to Oak Island began with a spark of interest. He and his older brother Rick loved hearing stories about buried treasures and old items when they were kids in Kingsford, Michigan. The Lagina boys were even more interested in these kinds of stories than other kids might have been. The Oak Island story in particular caught their attention. When they were kids, a story in Reader's Digest in the 1960s really interested them. The money pit on Oak Island was the subject of this story. It was a deep hole that people said was hiding a huge wealth. The pit was kept safe by clever traps that were meant to flood it and keep treasure hunters away. The young Laginas were interested in the danger, the unsolved mysteries, and the chance of finding a big treasure. This made them want to follow their dream for many years. A long time ago, the story of Oak Island was just something interesting that they talked about but didn't think they could really look into. The stories were big and seemed too unbelievable for anyone to look into on their own. But as time went on, they didn't lose interest. In fact, it got stronger. A lot of the time, they talked about Oak Island stories, and their shared interest finally pushed them to act. He and Rick chose to make their childhood dream come true in the early 2000s. That was the turning point. He had already done well as an engineer and business owner by that time, while Rick had gone his own way. They never gave up on their dream of solving Oak Island's mysteries, though. They knew that if they wanted to really help, they had to be in the search themselves. They took a big step forward in 2006 when they bought a majority stake in Oak Island Tours, the company that owned most of the island. Buying this wasn't like buying anything else. It required a lot of money and time from the person doing it. They could search and explore Oak Island in ways they hadn't been able to before because they owned part of it. But Marty's choice to own a piece of Oak Island was more than just a business move. It was really cool. Making that choice took a lot of thought, knowing what the risks were, and a promise to spend the time and money needed to find answers. For Marty, taking any risk was worth the chance to find something amazing and figure out a story that has been told for hundreds of years. Finding gold or jewels wasn't the only reason for this work. It was about putting together a big story from history that might change the way we think about it. But it wasn't going to be easy to figure out Oak Island's story. A lot of people have tried to find out what's there over the years. Explorers dug deep, built caves, and even brought in high-tech tools, but the answers they were looking for stayed hidden. There seemed to be more to the story the more they looked into it. Things that were learned made us ask more questions. This meant that each sign Marty and his team found helped them figure out one part of the story better, but showed how much more we still needed to learn. When it comes to the prize hunt, Marty's plan is both useful and fun. Because he used to be an engineer, he approaches the exploration in a reasonable and scientific way. He knows that it takes careful planning, patience, and sometimes luck to find something important on the island. He plans everything out and works hard, but what really drives him is the thrill of the hunt and the hope that they might find something under the next layer of dirt that would change the way we think about history. Just as things were getting better, he had to figure out how to use his skills to find things no one else could. Oak Island is where science and wealth meet. Lagina has changed the way people look for wealth on Oak Island by using his engineering skills. He was more thoughtful and based his search on science than many treasure hunters in the past, who mostly relied on guesswork and old tales. He learned as an engineer to pay attention to detail, plan carefully, and use technology to solve hard problems. All of these skills are very important on Oak Island's rough environment. He brought in high-tech tools to look below the island's surface early on in his journey. To find places where something important might be hidden, he used ground-penetrating radar, sonar imaging, and seismic tests. Marty knew that Oak Island's tales were hidden deep and that just digging around wouldn't work. A scientific method and a lot of thought were needed. The more he and his team looked into Oak Island's past, the more complicated it seems. With each new find, there were more stories to learn and new places to explore. He is still searching, but his goal is still clear: to find the truth that is hidden under Oak Island, no matter how hard it is or how long it takes. This ongoing search isn't just for wealth, it's also for understanding a part of history that has puzzled and interested many people for hundreds of years. Marty's dedication to this quest shows how much he wants to find the treasure in one of the best stories of hidden wealth ever told. There has always been a lot of water at Oak Island, especially in a spot called the Money Pit. It is said that riches are hidden in this deep hole, but it's always getting filled with water, so explorers can't dig very deep. This problem was solved by Marty Lagina and his team, who built cofferdams, which are walls that keep water out of certain places. They were able to control the water levels and dig in places they couldn't get to before because of these walls. He and his team dug deeper into the Money Pit than anyone else had ever done before by using these cofferdams, new ways to drill, and strong pumps. He is really determined to see every part of the island, as shown by his efforts to dig deeper and use the right tools. But controlling the water wasn't the hardest thing. Even though there was a lot of planning and high-tech gear, the island kept its memories close. Every time they tried to dig, they ran into new problems. There were natural obstacles that Marty and his brother Rick had to deal with. They also had to deal with the high expectations they had for themselves and the many people watching their journey from all over the world. They found some interesting things as he, Rick, and the rest of the crew used these new tools and tech. These discoveries did not prove that there was wealth, but they did show that Oak Island was historically important. A bunch of old coins near the Money Pit was one of the first cool things they found. The coins were from the 1600s and made a lot of people wonder, like, who left them there? These coins may have been dropped by early travelers or settlers. They may also be part of a bigger treasure that has yet to be found. Then there were bones of people. The team found pieces of bone while they were digging a lot in the Money Pit. These bones were found to be from Europeans after tests. This led to the idea that Europeans may have died or been buried on Oak Island a long time before modern treasure hunters came. Finding these bones made the story of the island feel more personal. There was more to it than just looking for gold and gems. Also, it was about the lives of people who had ties to this place. More interesting things started to show up as they kept looking. They found strange carvings and markings on the island. Some of them were connected to the Freemasons, who are a well-known group that's often the subject of stories. Because of this link, new ideas came up that the Freemasons, or even the Knights Templar, a group from the Middle Ages, may have had a relationship with the island a long time ago. Even though most of these thoughts were just guesses, they made the story of Oak Island even more complicated. With each new discovery, things became less clear, and soon people were speculating about what the team was really finding. Ancient clues help us figure out questions from today. People talked and thought about what he and his team were finding as they dug deeper. There were even reports that he and his team had found the treasure but were not telling anyone about it. Some of these stories got stronger after the TV show that followed their search. People watched the show because it often gave hints at big finds without showing everything. This made people wonder what might be under the ground. There were times when it looked like the team was about to find something very important, but the show would end before sharing what they had found. Many fans thought this meant there might be more going on than what they saw. But the search for solutions wasn't over yet. It seemed like every new discovery, no matter how big or small, raised more questions than it answered. He didn't let things get away from him. His only goal was to find out the truth about Oak Island, whether it was treasure or important historical items. The search was about a lot more than just getting money for him. It gave people a chance to learn more about the past